the world's two most powerful leaders are set to meet once again as Donald Trump and Xi Jinping prepare for a high-stakes summit in Beijing this week. With tensions rising over Iran, trade, Taiwan, artificial intelligence and global security, the meeting is being seen as a crucial moment in the evolving rivalry between the United States and China. The two-day summit begins on May 13th and comes at a time of mounting geopolitical uncertainty. Trump and Xi are expected to discuss the ongoing war in Iran, the global energy crisis, Taiwan, trade disputes and technology restrictions. The leaders last met in South Korea in October, where they agreed to pause a rapidly escalating trade war that had seen both countries impose heavy economic restrictions on each other. This time over, there's a whole lot of things at stake. The world is really looking at the two of them. I'm being joined by Professor Swaran Singh, who is with the JNU. Thank you very much, sir, for joining me. What do you think would be the big focus points for Donald Trump and Xi Jinping? At the end of the day, this is coming not just amid the war, but amid a whole lot of economic repercussions across the world.
Absolutely. You mentioned yourself things that are likely to be on agenda. And definitely will include the war in Iran, would include their respective views about Taiwan, about critical technologies, rare earth materials, which have been part of their trade and technology, tensions between two sides, tariffs, China's restrictions on various exports to United States, etc. But I think what is important to understand for your viewers is that these two countries individually, United States at 30 trillion economy and China with the 20 trillion economy, together constitute about 40% of global GDP. And of course, they are in very, very advanced stages of frontier technologies in a whole range of areas which determine the trends globally. So their meeting, therefore, is not just bilateral in that sense, but will have repercussions for the region and for much of the global trends in that sense. But it's also true that they have repeatedly tried and they will try again what is called tactical kind of coexistence or competitive coexistence. Structurally, systemically, they see each other as a challenge. So that the fundamental reality will not change, but the kind of high shrill, high octane, anxieties driven kind of verbose commentaries that we see, particularly from President Trump, could see a change in that tone, and I think that will send signal of stability in their relationship, and the impact will definitely be felt in the entire region and in global markets in that sense. So the summit, which is happening after 9 years in Beijing, but definitely, as you mentioned, they met in Busan last year, where Chinese had kind of relented on various restrictions on exports, particularly in rare earth materials, where they have virtually monopoly with 90% production. And therefore, I think it's an important summit which was postponed a couple of times. Finally, it is taking place. So the fact that it is happening is a good sign in itself, but outcomes can at best be very limited and tactical.
Two aspects to this, and even as you were breaking this down, it was just the fact, one is that Trump is going to be in Beijing. That itself is a very big deal. Two, with the war in West Asia, a lot is being spoken about increasing Chinese clout, the increasing Chinese influence, whether it be in the Middle East or whether it be even in Asia and Southeast Asia. Both of these things actually bring in a very interesting strategic geopolitical scenario, which only increases the stakes.
Actually, starting from early 2000s, if you remember the six-party talks for North Korean denuclearization, the United States had kind of tacitly endorsed China being the primus inter pares, the most important country in Asian region. And that has repeatedly either been showcased more vigorously or reluctantly again and again. So even in this case of Middle East, China has both important stakes and of course also leverages, given the fact that China is a very important investor now in ports, in other kinds of energy-related infrastructure. And of course, it now has with the Gulf countries only trade over $300 billion annually. So it's an important player in terms of economic relationship, but also seen from 2023 as a peacemaker in the Middle East. You would remember the role that it finally played in March of 2023, a rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and that Abraham Accords were the moment, flavor of the moment at that time. And it with Iran itself has signed a long-term 10-year strategic cooperation deal in 2021.
Right.
So China definitely has stakes and leverages. 80% of Iranian oil exports go to China. So China definitely has been playing a role so far, basically behind the curtain, nudging Iranians to continue to have conversation with the United States. But now United States will also have to engage China in ensuring an early end or de-escalation of the Iran conflict, which has been dissipating American energies for a pretty long time with the
Right.
no claim breakthrough and victory in that sense. So I think we will see a certain enhancement of China's role in how Middle East is resolved right now and
And
stability is
I
brought
think,
back,
sir,
which will
that's
have
why
both
many people
positive
say
and
that China has a possible upper hand in this meeting, because United States is coming for this talks and China is already being positioned in this manner. But my last question, sir, I'm out of time, but I do want to take this question from you. How is India going to be looking at this?
I think we will continue to be cautiously watching what happens there, because a more stable US-China relationship historically has meant a positive impact on India-China relationship, first of all, except that it
Okay.
should not result in some kind of condominium between the G2 kind of major powers working together to resolve local issues and creating spheres of influence, etc. But India would prefer that if they sit together and begin to talk of resolving Iran, they should look at multilateral forums or even United Nations to be the forum and platform, rather than just bilaterally sitting and deciding things for the region. That would make China inordinately influential in the region in that sense, which is not something India is really looking forward to. But India also is enormously significant. As I said, China is a systemic challenge for United States, and India is a very significant country in that sense. When United States looks at India, which can really put restriction on China's unmitigated kind of expansion in the region. So India has its own very important standing that is also something that has been built over a period of time, institutionalized over a period of time, with India being seen as a major defense partner. India is seen as a net security provider. I'm talking of how United States looks at India, particularly in Indo-Pacific geopolitics. India is almost indispensable in that sense. But if the proximity and the bonhomie between the two leaders is kind of going beyond a certain point, then India will have to be really cautious as to what impact it has on India's interests.
Right. Professor Swaran Singh, thank you very much for joining us.